A live broadcast of Ecuadorian television channel TC was interrupted by a group of gunmen who forced staff to lie and sit on the ground as gunshots and shouts were heard. The country's president declared 22 gangs as terrorist organizations and said the country was in a state of internal armed conflict. People wearing balaclavas and dressed largely in black were seen wielding large guns and approaching staff huddled together in a live stream that was eventually cut off on Tuesday. It is not yet known whether station personnel were injured. Some of the occupiers gestured at the camera and one was heard shouting "No police." Another channel showed footage of police outside TC Studios Guayaquil, a coastal city that has experienced increasing violence in the past few years as drug trafficking groups step up their operations. The once relatively peaceful South American country appropriations as a result of the intervention on TC television Guy. Police units took action until various issues and evidence of the crime were identified. Posterior más detalles. TPQ-7FFAGCM. Policia Ecuador, January 9, 2024. Everything collapsed. All I know is that it is time to leave this country and go far away. Ecuador's National Police announced on social media that specialized units had been deployed to the area, and police confirmed that 13 people had been arrested. The National Police published photos of many men with their hands zipped behind their backs and stated that these men were caught during the intervention in the studio. The incident came a day after President Daniel Noboa declared a state of emergency, after at least 7 police officers were kidnapped. Explosions ripped through several cities and prison inmates took dozens of guards hostage. Noboa issued a decree on Tuesday stating that the country was in a state of internal armed conflict and declaring 22 gangs as terrorist organizations. The decree ordered the armed forces to neutralize the groups in accordance with international law and human rights. The top U.S. diplomat in Latin America expressed concern about the situation. "We are extremely concerned by today's violence and kidnappings in Ecuador," Brian Nichols of the State Department wrote to X, adding that American officials will continue to remain in close contact with President Daniel Noboa's team. Meanwhile, Peruvian Prime Minister Alberto Otarola declared an emergency on his country's northern border with Ecuador and said an undetermined number of military units would be deployed to support police forces in the region. In countries across Latin America, governments often take harsh measures to curb the production and circulation of drugs, giving blank checks to armed forces with long records of abuse and rights violations. Critics say such efforts fuel brutal cycles of violence in countries like Mexico and Colombia but fail to stem the flow of lucrative drugs. But as a violent crime wave descended on Ecuador, politicians sought to talk.